What? Oh no. No, I thought I died. I thought it was over.
Don't tell me a hotshot pilot like you is afraid of the Dryden Triangle.
No. I'm not scared. I'm scared of piloting these things. I crashed into a canyon. How am I even? Let's get out of here. Oh God, no, not again, not again.
As you can see, Lord Vader, the units perform admirably.
Look, if there's one good thing I can say about Star Wars Rebel Assault 2, it's that it certainly does do exactly what sequels are supposed to do, anyway, in that it improves upon the dreadful gameplay of Rebel Assault 1 in a few areas, while also upping the quality of the FMV and live-action models. Alright, now that that's out of the way, on to the review. I actually did go back and watched last year's Rebel Assault 1 video before I dove into this one and began working on it, mostly because I was curious of how much of what I said either A, I remembered saying, and B, held true for the sequel. My conclusion is that I could just replace the footage of last year's video with Rebel Assault 2 footage and it would largely be unaffected. So here you go.
Visually, the game, outside of looking dated as hell, is a mess. Why? Look, I get it. The game is from an era long past. Fuck it, the game's bad.
No, I know I can't be that lazy, all right? I wish I could, everybody does, but I won't be. If I was that lazy, this video would have been on time. Oh, what a self-burn. Seriously though, there has to be something different about this game worth talking about, right? Right?
And let's make it quick. I don't want to stay out here a second longer than necessary.
What I will say is that if a stormtrooper had a blaster rifle up to your head and told you that you had to play either Rebel Assault 1 or Rebel Assault 2 or be shot in the head, the temptation to take the third option is there. But if you're not a millennial and cherish life, then Rebel Assault 2 would have to be your pick, hands down. Not because it's a good game, because it's not at all. It hasn't aged well visually, audibly mostly, and the story is certainly generic and lacking, and good lord is the acting cheesy as all hell, and not that quaint cheesy that we had in Dark Forces 2. I just mean like $5 an actor kind of cheesy at absolute best.
Of course, I've survived tougher missions than this in my day.
But even all that can be forgiven. Hell, most or all of those criticisms could be laid at the feet of any 90s Star Wars game. For one, the gameplay is the literal exact loop of the first game. You have your flying sections, which are always a joy. It makes you feel like you're trying to control a paper airplane in a wind tunnel. But it's also got the same on-rails shooter stuff from before. The part where you don't really get to do too much other than pretend you're playing a light gun game, but not on an arcade machine, but instead on your crappy 1996 compact Presario. But for what it's worth, the on-rail shooter segments are actually playable. See, in the original Rebel Assault, moving your targeting reticule during these segments felt like trying to gently suggest a sleeping Hutt to move in a direction that you wanted. But if you were too gentle, you'd either undershoot your target or just sidestep it completely, but if you were too aggressive, your mouse would just overshoot it and end up in the corner of the screen. You needed just the right amount of encouragement to get that little targeting reticule going where you wanted it to be, all while the screen is constantly zooming past all the targets you need to shoot. But with enough practice, you could actually manage and get through. But in Rebel Assault 2, the frame rate was improved by literally almost double. So now it's less like trying to direct a fat slug and more like you're actually playing a video game kinda. I know, high praise. Additionally, the higher quality FMV does do more than just make the cutscenes and gameplay more visually bearable. They actually do help distinguish targets a whole lot easier. Remember, this was a time where people thought FMV was going to be the future. Just be real thankful it wasn't. The same aspects of gameplay that held up best the first time around are the same ones that held up pretty okay and well this time around. The on-rail space shooting sections specifically are probably the best this game has to offer. The problem is, it's just as painfully simple as it was the first game. You're in the cockpit of your ship, bad guys fly on screen, and you shoot them faster than they can shoot you or fly past you. But don't for a second think you won't be taking any damage, because you will. The game seems to know this part is obscenely easy too, because it just lobs handfuls of TIE fighters at you at a near endless pace, so you better be paying attention, rookie, or you'll be exploding like Porkins in no time. And that's about where the positives end. Sweet. Everything else in this mess is exactly that, a mess. So let's tackle the elephant in the room first. Fuck those flying segments. I'm serious, for all the minuscule improvements over the rest of the game, it feels like the guy overseeing the flight aspects of the game was way too distracted with something else. And honestly, I can't blame him. I get it. This game is terrible. I'd want to do something else as well. All right, Dean. We've got like 2 weeks before Rebel Assault 2 ships. How's the flying? But somehow even the neglect it received made it worse than the original. At least I feel like it. I could get through the first flying mission in the first one. I could not say the same for this one. Since everything is an FMV, it is goddamn impossible to tell where your ship's hitbox is, as it's seemingly a solid inch or so outside your ship's actual model in the game. Get too close to a wall and begin to grind on it, and the damage racks up very, very quickly. There are no iframes to buffer small mistakes, just pure pain train and punishment that continually taunts you toward the dark side. All the while, the scenery you're flying through is also an FMV, completely disjointed from the ship's models altogether, and you're meant to navigate that thing. And when I broke down to go look up tips about how to beat this thing on the internet, do you know the kinds of tips that I was given when I found them? Even the ones that go all the way back to 1995? Is that to cheat. That was the tip. The tip was to cheat and skip the flying segments because they're so bad you can't beat them. And if that is part of your game, if there is something that the only consensus anyone can say about it is it's so bad you have to cheat to get by it, something went wrong. And all of this got a pass in 1995. This game was relatively praised, and there are people who have fond memories of this thing. You want to know why? Because it sounded like Star Wars and sort of looked like Star Wars through a grain filter on Snapchat. People were okay to overlook all this garbage because it made their lightsabers hard in the end to hear and see Star Wars stuff. The third and final piece of gameplay in Rebel Assault 2 is the same aspects of Rebel Assault 1. You keep in mind, the games only have 3 modes: fly around in space mode, fly your ship in a tunnel mode, and this mode, which is its Time Crisis style on-foot shooting sections where you hide behind a wall or a pillar or whatever and pop out when the baddies pop out to shoot them dead. Kill enough of them and you're lucky enough to move on. Sounds about as simple as the space part, you'd think, but that's where, of course, you'd be wrong. Unlike the movies, these stormtroopers seem to have gone to sniper school and with pinpoint accuracy fire on your position the moment they pop out until the moment they hide again from you. This leaves you, as the player, about 1 second total to shoot these guys before they lay blaster fire on you again or hide behind whatever object they're hiding behind. So unless you're an actual Jedi, and if you are, more power to you, you're going to be hit. Especially when there's 2 or 3 stormtroopers on screen at once and they're all firing at different times, covering for the brief moments of respite you might get to kill off a different stormtrooper altogether. Going from Rebel Assault 1 to Rebel Assault 2 is kind of like going from Count Dooku to Darth Vader. They're both fucking terrible, awful people of power, but the first one is in a less flattering movie than the latter. But they'll both kill you. There's not much more to say about Rebel Assault 2. That's the game in question, all told. That's just how it's packaged. So it's up to me, the Honorable Judge Mathis, to judge this game innocent or guilty. First, let's judge myself guilty for having this video be a lot later than I was expecting. But the game also gets a rating of guilty, not because it's bad. I expected the game to be bad. That's all I really was expecting out of it. What it's guilty of is just being a copy-paste of the first game with just enough minor improvements to confuse the masses in 1995 that this was in fact a superior product and this was going to be the future of games.
FMV. That, as you like packaging up a box of like cow manure, and then someone bought it, and then a year later they returned it, and then you put it in a new packaging, and you like spit shined the poo, and then you gave it back to them, and you sold it for the same price they bought the first one for, but because you spit. So my question to you this time is simple. What game were you promised was gonna be great or even good, and then you played it and realized it was a heaping pile of garbage? Or better yet, what did you play 10, 15, 20 years ago if you were alive that long, and then you picked up today and realized that your nostalgic glasses for it were filled with grime and the game is actually pretty terrible? We all have those, right? We have to all have those games that you thought were great and then you played and just weren't as good. I've even covered a couple of my own personal ones here on this channel. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say, because then I can note it down on my list and maybe play it for the channel another time. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Judge Mathis. A big heartfelt apology for it taking as long as it did to get out. This was supposed to be the end of December, but ended up being a lot later due to personal stuff that is my own to deal with, and also then ended up having immediately after the holidays a trip I had to go on and stuff for PAX, so it just ended up being a lot on my plate for and not allowing me a lot of time. But we're back as always, and I will be back with a new video soon. I think I know what it is going to be. It's going to be a little different than what you're used to here on the Judge Mathis channel. Still video game related and still a video game, but that's all I can say right now as I work out the details of it. But other than that, I thank you guys for supporting me this whole while, and thank you for watching the video. A big shout out to my lovely Patreon supporters over on patreon.com/Judge Mathis or Judge Mathis Games. I think it's Judge Mathis. You can check the link below if you want to go above and beyond and join the community that's been hanging with me for about a year or so now. It's just been wonderful all the way through. And if you didn't know, I have a gaming channel you can go check out at Mathis Games. You can check me out the same thing on Twitter, Twitch, and pretty much everywhere else on the internet. Also, my hair is incredibly long. I'm aware at that. I don't need the people telling me that I'm rocking that Justin Bieber haircut or that emo haircut from 2005. I'm aware of what it looks like right now. I'm working on something. Don't you worry about it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and be safe. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.